Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining me. This is taraleelive, and we are live on YouTube tonight. And I am joined by my good friend DutchBlooms with the Regenerative Conference, and a new guest with us tonight, Happy Days Farm. And I am going to let Josh introduce him. So go ahead, Josh.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching. And it's really funny. I've been wanting to talk to, this is Casey O'Neill. And we met 2 years ago at the Regenerative Conference. I got piped his phone number or Instagram, something from somebody, and was able to invite him to be a part of the first one we did in Humboldt. And this motherfucker is a true ass fucking farmer that is down for the cause. That's like, so I have the wildest range of experiences with people putting on this conference. I have people asking me to be a part of it, telling me how special they are and they need to be a part of it. I have people that I invite that are too busy to need to make so much money. I have other people who are a lot of Dem farmers are like, is there any way I could get a free ticket at that thing I'm coming to speak at? And it's like, you know what I mean? I have this range of experience, and like, you came, of course you come to free the whole thing. And then you gave me, I think, $100 or $200 at the end of the weekend. You're like, here, man, you just pulled it out of your pocket. You're like, here, support the cause. And I was just like, holy shit, this is one down dude. And so, like, mad respect, dude. I know you do a lot of activism in California. And, I was just saying before we got online, what the first thing that caught my attention about you was you were doing what I felt like I should have been doing and should be doing. Growing a full farm with vegetables and all plants, not just cannabis. So mad respect, man. And like, yeah, tell us about, all of what you do. I don't want to cover it all, but like, tell me about what all you grow on your farm and who all's involved. And I know there's a family aspect.
Yeah, definitely. So it's, the folks bought the land in 75, moved up in 82, and I was born that fall. So, they're old hippie back to the landers, but not, gardeners, school teachers, but not farmers. And so then I came home from college and was growing cannabis out, deep out the hill. And then we got popped in 08. And so I kind of came home to the farm. I did a couple of months in county. And so I really started looking at food farming, and figuring out like, okay, well, as a monocrop farmer, like I've just lost my crop for the year. And this is not a sustainable farm organism. So really started, I took a sustainable vegetable production and a soil and fertilizer class and really started kind of sinking my teeth into growing food. And so then when I got off probation, we started, we formed a collective and had the collective model, and that was magic. We were doing these cannabis farmers markets, and like as food farmers, we go to farmers markets, one up here on the mountain and then one down in town in Laytonville. And so, we do, I'm a really big believer in polyculture and food production and diversified farming, and seeing, for me in the last 10 years, that go from like not being really part of my reality to like being a fundamental, deep, part of my scope and understanding of life has been just a very powerful experience.
This was, so when did you start vegetable farming or adding the vegetables?
2010.
2010.
Yeah,
that's when I started too.
And so that's what's up. Yeah. And so it was like, I remember like bringing these cases of tomatoes to market and worrying like, man, the older farmers are going to be bummed I'm bringing these tomatoes, and like them just being super supportive and not treating me like competition, but treating me like family. And that was and remains a very, very powerful experience for me, that, that shared farmerness.
Yeah. I think there's so few farmers left, and like when people see, we're not really young anymore, but compared to the average age of farmers, we are, was it when you came into the vegetable market, did you come in more competitive price wise than some of the other guys that were kicking around? Like, I'm just imagining you were doing a more boutique product, or were you coming in kind of price competitive?
It was really interesting because, one of the things that we managed to do fairly well was like find our own niche. And so, like a lot of the other farmers weren't really growing hot crops at the markets that I was at, and so I don't know, it's a really interesting question. And I'm kind of thinking back on it, and like, at the time for me, it was more just about like, well, what's everybody else price? All right, I'll sell it the same thing. And it wasn't until several years later that I started to like have the tools as a farmer to start to evaluate like, well, okay, what actually is my price? Like, what are my costs in terms of labor and time and inputs and stuff? So I can, am I, to evaluate, like, am I losing money on this crop? And so initially it was just kind of like, well, what do you guys sell tomatoes at? $3 a pound? All right, $3 a pound. And so it wasn't until, the last couple of years that we kind of, for both Bell Springs and Laytonville, like, at different times of the years, we're kind of the anchor point for the market. And so, other farmers will be like, yo, what do you sell kale at? And I'm like, oh, I got these $3 bunches. And so it's been interesting to see that, kind of shift over the years and for us to kind of, I guess, like take on that mantle or whatever.
That's cool. So you're doing the two farmers market now still?
Yeah, we do Monday and Thursday. And so we've done that all. The Monday one in Laytonville we do year round, and then the Thursday one is up on the mountain, and that's only sunny weather. But we haven't really seen a whole lot of rain yet, so we're still doing it. And it's you get right in the midst of harvest, and you're like, oh boy, I'm still doing, still picking produce for farmers market, and that juggle can definitely wear you down. I'm glad, like I said, we got off the racks. We're done with drying cannabis, and so everything is stable at this point. So that's crucial because we're definitely starting to wear pretty thin this fall.
Yeah. What's your ratio, like cannabis to all other crops? I mean, I imagine you do more cannabis.
It varies a lot during the course of the year, and so in April, I'm like 9 veggie, 1 cannabis, 90-10. And then in August, September, I'm like 50-50, 60-40, like cannabis, come August, like cannabis takes up most of my pops' garden, most of my brother's garden, except for peppers. And then at my spot, it's about a third. And so like we do, we have significantly more beds that are dedicated strictly to veggies. And then in between the cannabis plants, we grow a lot of food too. And so, in March and April, it's almost all food in the cannabis rows. And then as we go through summer, it gets more and more cannabis. And then right now we're in the process of converting back to food in the cannabis rows.
Obviously you guys are super regenerative. You won the Regenerative Farm Award. She's got your Instagram, and I saw it was 2018.
Yep.
Yeah, I've got your Instagram.
Dude, that was fucking,
yeah,
that
I've
was
got
awesome.
Whoops, sorry about that. I've got your Instagram up right now. Is there anything particular you want me to point out for you, Casey?
Let's see. I mean, so what I'm seeing right now in the picture, the vegetables, the food crops are exceptionally important to us and have been, very, very bountiful this year. We live in a gorgeous, incredible place, and we're super thrilled to have the opportunity to be there. And one of the things for us is like, it's all about, Grandpa always said, let us be happy in our work. So it's all about trying to keep it lighthearted, trying to keep good energy and trying to put that out into the world and engage in this process as farmers where we're trying to do right by the land, and we're trying to, to build something for ourselves, for our family, for our children, and see the landscape really thrive, and so like I say, the folks, I was born up here in 1982, and so in the last 37 years we've seen the parcel really become more bountiful, be more vibrant, have more biodiversity, and so that's something that, seeing what has happened in the last few decades and thinking about like what can happen in the decades to come is very, a very powerful driver for me. And so, like I say, that's my brother. And for us, it's all about trying to keep it light and farming's hard work, putting a lot of effort and energy. And so, it's to me, it's always that old, Milton quote, the mind can make a hell of heaven or a heaven of hell. And so, we're very blessed to be able to tend the land, and we try to really like live up to that, that ethos and that imperative of enjoying what we're doing.
How do you farm? Regenerative is a concept.
Yep.
Do you rotate crops? Do you have dedicated beds or what? Yeah, what's your kind of,
So,
how do you do it?
you know, rapid rotation intensive is how I tend to describe it. And so for us, it's all about turn and burn because we have such limited space and you know, we have the desire to be, you know, significant providers of food for our community and obviously producers of quality medicine. And so it's, you know, we definitely like, we still import compost, we import some amendments, we grow a lot of stuff on site for fertility. You know, we raise alfalfa and comfrey and borage and calendula and, you know, all kind of different phacelia and hyssop and, you know, all the herbs and all kind of different things. And so for us, it's about just trying to grow as many things as possible. You know, we do between 30 and 40 different veggie crops each year. And because we have such limited space, like we do a lot of starting seeds in the greenhouse and transplanting things out, much less direct sowing because of the time that, you know, the additional time that takes to really get up and romping. And so a lot of cover cropping, a lot of work with, you know, we have pretty limited pastures, pretty steep slope, but a lot of animal rotation with poultry, chickens, you know, laying hens, and then meat birds. And so that, you know, sort of helping to revitalize what is, you know, pretty damaged pasture, and trying to build soil over time. And so, you know, I'm like I say, I'm still, you know, in terms of, we live in a very brittle environment. We run a very rapid rotation, pulling a lot of food out of the soil, a lot of cannabis out of the soil. And so, you know, I'm big on putting back in what we're taking out to make sure that we're not reducing the nutrient density of the food. And so, because we live in such a brittle environment with such small access to raw inputs, we still buy finished compost and, you know, we buy some soil amendments. But in general, for us, it's as much as possible closing that loop with fertility. You know, we shifted feedings to all, you know, fermented plant juice and doing a lot of, you know, different plant teas, like I say, alfalfa, comfrey, borage, what is it? Equisetum, the horsetail. And so, you know, I one of the things for me that is a little concerning around in the whole regenerative movement is kind of this, like, you know, I feel like there's kind of a spectrum from this, like, really supportive, special, like, we're all learning, we're all figuring it out, we're all still driving pickup trucks, so we're cutting each other some slack, to, you know, one spectrum on from that end to the, like, who's the most regenerativist, you know. And so it's always, for me, I try to really avoid being dogmatic, because it's like, you know, we're all imperfect humans moving along this journey, and you know, we all got to try to big each other up and lift each other up. And you know, we're all kind of at different places with different context. And so I think it's, you know, for me, it's an interesting process of, you know, learning to farm and learning, you know, the nature of my microclimate and soils and slope, and the reality under which I farm, and being able to learn lessons from others without judgment, and being, you know, expecting to be able to offer what I have to offer without judgment. So it's a good process and an interesting process.
No, it's a good point. I like how you shared it. I've definitely felt the ins and outs of the regenerative feelings. You know, I have a greenhouse with lights, and you know, when I put on the conference, I definitely had some people going, "What the fuck, dude? Are you know, is that regenerative?" You know, and it's like, you know, well, let's talk about it. Is where I'm at. You know, like, maybe it isn't, but let's talk about it. And I think it is, right? You know, that's what I'm doing. You know, and when you're farming vegetables, it's most folks in the regenerative movement aren't living off vegetables money wise, right? And it's a lot less profit wise. You have to do a lot more labor. You have to, everything's tighter, right? And if you haven't done that, you don't know that. And so you don't know that, like, hey, we need to guarantee that these come in when they're going to come in, so we can make the money we need to make. And the only way to do that right now with the resources we have is to bring in some compost, you know. And it's like, no shame, bro. That's like, you know, hell yeah.
You know, it's the interesting balance, right? Because it's like, I could produce all my on-farm fertility to feed my family and produce cannabis, and I wouldn't have to buy anything from off-farm, but then I wouldn't be providing food to the community.
Right.
And so, you know, that balance of, like, building community versus, like, just doing for me, and, like, it's different for everybody. And so, for us, it's very, very important to be production food farmers. And so that's that's the context in which we find ourselves. And I think that's one of the things that, like, as a community in the regenerative movement, we have got to be able to accept that each of us has our own context, and that we each understand and know our context and are making our choices accordingly. And so, it's like, it's easy to, like, pass judgment on somebody, but it's like, if everybody is operating based on their context in the way that they see fit, because that's what they think is the right thing to do, then who is it for anybody else to have anything to say about it? And so it's interesting, like, you can tell, like, one of the kind of the background of this topic is, like, the whole movement, the cannabis process and all of the change. And, for me, having been in kind of a public position in a lot of it, the dialogue has been really there's a lot of vitriol in it. There's a lot of intensity to it. And that can be very hard. And so, I think one of the things I always try to caution is, like, hey, trust that everybody's doing the best they can with the knowledge and information they have, and that the best thing that we can all do is, like, love and support each other, because that's where we're all at.
Oh yeah, 100%, man. And I like how you brought it back to bringing food out. Like, it's not just, I mean, you're talking about the community aspect, but I just want to highlight the health aspect. Like, you're putting healthy, nutrient dense food, which is seriously lacking in most co-ops.
Important.
People don't realize it. Oh, I shop at the co-op. I'm like, no, like, have you grown food at your house that has lots of nutrients and it tastes really good? And then you go buy it at the co-op and it's not there, man. It's different,
Real truth. And, it's interesting, like, what's kind of pinging around for me is the conversation around pesticides. And it's like, seeing cannabis edibles fail because of the food components for pesticide testing, and you start to talk about, like, this idea of, like, whoa, we've kind of accepted, like, oh yeah, food's poisonous, it's cool, bro. And it's like, whoa, babe, just, and so it's like that idea of, like, food is the basis. And it's kind of that whole modern American, an egg is an egg is an egg. And it's like, no, dude, an egg is not an egg unless it's a real egg. And so it's interesting, like, to me, like, food justice is a thing that's of such importance. And a lot of time, I think, is kind of, I don't know, it's something that we're waking back up to. For me, like I said, 10 years ago, it wasn't part of my consciousness at all. And so it's this thing that, cannabis and food justice and overall social justice and how we want governance to work, like, all these things are all rolled up together into one big, kind of social change agenda that we're all working on. And that to me is, like, a really powerful thing.
It is. It's something I want to highlight at the conference this year is, as a way that we can, like, we can all, those of us that live together, we can all not only band together to sell our weed, but band together to start doing other crops. I got the tomatoes, even if it's just something like that, where, like, I'm going to do, you know what I mean? Yeah. Straight co-op.
Well, and the more that everybody can work together, I mean, that's going to bring in more of the community, right? The more people you can bring in, the bigger and better it's going to get. And the more word of mouth is going to help you guys.
Totally.
And, back to where you guys were talking about, Dutch was saying how he had lights in his greenhouse. How regenerative is that? Or how regenerative is this? Or how regenerative is that? And maybe we need to really be asking the question, are we just being the best regenerative that we can be within our means right now? And we can always do better, 100%. There's always going to be that. But as long as we're just trying and doing our best we can at the moment, and we know in our heart that we are, then that should just be good enough. And that's how I feel like we just need to start accepting us and not being so harsh on ourselves and being so, like, well, if we can't do it 100%, then we're just not going to do it at all. I think that's kind of where people are going with that.
Totally. Yeah. It's everything is a step along a continuum, and we all have a goal that we're headed towards, and it's going to take a lifetime to get there. And that to me is, like, kind of the magic of the potential of the thing, is, like, it's this huge process that we're all engaged in. And, like, because of that, you know, it's just one foot in front of the other, and it's a slow journey, but it's a special journey. And that's one of the things, you know, again, that I think is so important in terms of like, you know, being able to like support each other in where we're at in our individual processes. And that I think is like a really special and powerful thing.
Yeah, well, you know, I just want to, you know, it's like one aspect that's good when we get together, folks that have like minds, you know, want to grow in living soils and grow the earth and sequester carbon. It's like we start sharpening each other and challenging each other in a good way. Like, you know, that's what was kind of my introduction to you, is that even talking to you now, dude, I'm feeling challenged. Like, why haven't I been growing food? And that's an okay thing for me to feel. It's, you know, I should feel that, right? A little bit. I'm happy to feel that, and I need a little kick in the ass, right? But it's the to me, it's the judgment when you don't know the content, like the context of what people are working on. You know, you didn't come on and say, "Well, bro, why the fuck aren't you growing vegetables?" That was cultivating inside of me by your positive example, right?
See, and that's one of the things I think is so special, is it's exactly what you said. Like, and you know, on IG and like the various different forums and discussion, like this challenging, but like in a good way, in a positive way, where it's like, you know, same thing, like you're at the mountain and you know, everybody's jamming through the trees and like, oh, you're getting, you know, and you're like feeding off the energy from each other. And like that upliftment is a really fucking powerful thing, because, you know, you see things that you hadn't seen. You get new ideas about, like, I see like, oh, so and so just built this thing, and like, oh, I could totally fucking do that. And so like, to me, that I think is like this tremendous benefit of this movement that we're all engaged in, is like, we really do, like, we challenge each other in a good way, because we excite each other about the positive potential of the things that we're trying to do.
100%. 100%. And you guys, like, that's why I'm here tonight, and that's why I met Josh and the regenerative thing. You guys are also inspiring to me, and I don't think a lot of you bigger farmers realize how inspiring you are to just the little guy like me, who's just in my backyard just playing with a few plants. I'm such a new grower, and you know how inspiring you guys are to go, wow, you know, I could actually maybe sell some vegetables at my farmer's market, or maybe I could just give them out to my local friends, which I do all the time anyways, you know. But I like all the herbs, and you guys are introducing me to, because that's what is like, I think that is so cool. Like, I've never grown borage, I've never grown, you know, some of these other things. I don't even, you know, I wouldn't even know how to use it right now, other than KNF.
Just start ordering seed catalogs, and then they send you these things, and you just start looking at them when you're on the shitter, and you're like, holy shit, your mind just goes, whoa.
I don't think I need to order seeds, dude. I've ordered seeds before and I never plant them. See, that's the problem.
Yeah, and you know, for me, it's like, I'm always like, I just always want to grow new stuff. And so like, I come across like, oh, I never grew that. Let's put that in the lineup. Let's see what that'll do. And you know, it's that whole, you know, the cliche, like, hope springs eternal. Like, every year it's like, okay, what's the new shit we're gonna do this year? The same with cannabis too. Like, what's the new strain? What, you know, what crosses did we make last year?
So are you flipping around on, like, when, like, your tomatoes, do you do, you know, the same tomatoes every year, or are you kind of doing different ones, or experimenting with a few? And
Most part. Yeah, like, we find things that we really like. Like, we do this ox heart. It's called a coeur de bout. It's a ox heart, like, so it's more pink and like kind of big and sort of heart shaped. And then we do the pineapples. And so, you know, yeah, like, I find things I really like, and I run with them. You know, same with the greens, like the Mizuna, the mustards, the salad mixes, all those different things. Like, you know, and we buy a lot of stuff from both Johnny's Seed Catalog and Fedco, which are both seed companies. They're cooperatives that are based off the East Coast. And so, you know, for us here in NorCal, it's like, if they can knock it out in Maine, then I can smash it out of the park in my specific microclimate. And so that's a lot of it, is like, find a seed company that matches your microclimate, and things are going to really click.
yeah, we have a cool
You know,
uprising, if you
that
know
is
them.
such a good point. Like, find your environment. Like that's the other thing when you take grow advice, remember who you're taking it from and where they live, right? And
Oh
also
man.
bringing in other environments for the regenerative movement, right? We need to learn from those around us, right?
And it's so critical. Like microclimate is, for instance, like we're up on the mountain at 3,000 feet, and so I'm still harvesting tomatoes, peppers. I got basil still. Whereas, and so I haven't seen any kind of frost at all yet. Whereas in the valley, it has frozen hard more than a dozen times. And so, depending upon what your microclimate is, it changes completely what you're able to grow. And like for instance, my friend is a food farmer in the valley, and she does all kind of like head lettuces and stuff, cool weather crops that she can pull off in the summer because she gets the cool nights. And like I can't grow salad mix for shit in the summer, but I can crush tomatoes and melons and eggplants and peppers. And so it's like, knowing what is capable within your microclimate, and then the things you like don't grow stuff you don't like to eat is always a big kind of motto for me, with the exception of tomatoes. I grow the shit out of tomatoes and I don't like them that much except for sauce.
So I found our property here. It's so hard to find a cannabis property, and I was looking for it, buying a license, legalization already happening. So I didn't own it prior, and so it was hard for us to find something that we could afford. Finally found something right as my wife's 7 months pregnant, freaking out. And so I honestly did not do too much thinking about the microclimate. We are
Right.
5-minute drive to the beach, 5 minutes to I-5. And at the beach, there'll be no snow. At I-5, there'll be no snow. And in our whole little area, we'll get like 7-8 inches. It's like, yep, I found kind of the roughest spot to grow weed. Nice, dude.
So
that's why I have
a
a greenhouse with all those lights, It's straight up.
Yeah, that brings up a good point though. Like Casey was just saying, so you haven't seen frost up higher and higher elevation in the valley has? Like that just seems odd to me. Like,
it's
so
kind of
is that normal?
Yeah, it's kind of counterintuitive, but it's the inversion layer, because the cold air sinks, hot air rises. Like I get much more snow in the winter. The valley doesn't really get snow, but I get much less, in terms of like days, frost days per year. I get way, way less. It's trippy.
Wow. Yeah, I never even thought about that. I'm like, yeah, it would rise. Yeah, duh. Huh. Wow. Okay,
Yeah,
honey. I want to move on a mountain, honey. Let's go.
You just got to build everything for snow load, though. That's the only difference. Like no cheap infrastructure. Everything's got to be burly. I learned the hard way a few times.
Yeah. Okay. So speaking of burly, are you off grid? Aren't you off grid pretty much? Or okay.
Yeah,
Do you want to speak about that a little bit?
Yeah, so there's kind of an irony in which PG&E has power lines that run through the top of the property, but we don't have a grid connection. PG&E never offered it up here. And so we're entirely solar powered, deep cycle batteries, which, the batteries are still the weak link in the off grid system, but they're new models are starting to come online, which is, I'm something I'm excited about. And so, we have a small backpack generator for backup, but for the, probably 330 days a year, we're entirely off grid. And then occasionally when it's been raining for a few days in a row, we got to run the generator to charge the batteries. So it's been a lot of work to get to that point in terms of putting in solar panels and building the system. And same thing, homesteading. It's like you're building your systems, you're building your house, you're building your cabin, you're building your outbuildings, you're building your soil. And so all of these things over the years have kind of slowly but surely come together. And so now, this is the first year where we're really kind of looking around like, right, we're not, for the longest time we said we're building a farm. And now, like, I don't say I'm building a farm. Like now we have a farm. We're learning how to farm it as effectively as possible.
Very nice. So how many acres is it? Dutch, you're muted.
I was just saying, you said you had a greenhouse for starting seeds. Do you heat that, and how do you heat it?
No.
If you do, no,
yeah, we don't heat it all. So, yeah, and we use, the only thing we do is we got some of those the little heat mats, the 17 watt, the single tray heat mats. I can push up to 4 of those, and so I can do 4 trays at a time when I'm like starting hot crops in the spring and stuff. And so there have been years where we played around with like Mr. Heater, you know, but in general, we just, you know, the snows, you know, usually when we get the snows, it's not like hard cold freeze, you know, it's like 31, 32. And so, you know, we almost never have like, you know, 2 weeks of 20s, some shit like that. And so, for the most part, you know, the only time of year that we would consider heating it is like late April, and it usually starts to warm up by then for the most part. So we have two Caterpillar tunnels. This last winter we got the Caterpillars. They're 14 by 50, and they're the gabled metal, so they shed snow better. And those have just been phenomenal. Like, you know, I'm not really one for like repping products, but like Farmers Friend LLC, like they sell these Caterpillar tunnels that are super cheap, super durable, and really just stellar all the way around.
Hell yeah. Do you grow weed in those? Or just veggies?
No, we don't do. I mean, just seed starts. Like we'll start them 4 inches up, plant them to ones,
Okay.
and then plant them out in stacks. Yeah, and so
Gotcha.
you know, at various times, like I've done some dep, I've done some hoop house growing, but in general, you know, for me, we're pretty much seed stock outdoor.
Oh yeah. Do you use your own seed stock, or do you?
Yeah, we save seeds. You know, I mean, we're always like, you know, we'll bring in some new hot shit or whatever. But in general, like most of the strains that we've been working with for 6, 8, 10 years now.
So like, what you want to name some? Name them.
Yeah, definitely. Like, you know, so my buddy Robbie up at Cut Creek Farms, like we got a lot of stuff from him originally. This was, you know, 10 years ago. His Ogre Berry, which is it's a old school strawberry kush that he bred, and then put on the Ogre clone. And so that strawberry is like base stock for almost everything we do. You know, we put it on the OG. Well, and so my buddy at 2020 Mendocino, my buddy Collins, like he bred a lot of different. He bred the sour strawberry, bred the OG strawberry, bred the PK, and so from a lot of those base stock, like we've been using that over the last few years and kind of playing things around, and added in the SFV, the Chem Valley, added that into some of the stuff, the Chem Dog SFV, and so. And we've kind of incorporated some things in and some things out, but in general, like that strawberry is like base stock for a lot of what we do. You know, Cut Creek and 2020, like those guys are homies, like brothers of mine that we go back a long time. And so that process of evolution over the years has been pretty special. And it's interesting, like when you got something that like you've been working with since before testing came online, and you're like, man, this is always something that I've really loved, that's been good for my head, that I feel like is good medicine. And then like testing comes online and you see the results and you're like, oh shit, that is some real shit. Okay, that's yep, okay then. So it's been cool to see like stuff that for us was tried and true in the old days still be tried and true.
Hell yeah. Awesome. You got any questions, Tara?
I'm going to say cheers to chat, and thanks everyone for joining us tonight, along with our special guest, Casey. By the way, this is Happy Days Farms, for those of you new that joining us tonight, along with DutchBlooms. Thank you all for their support. I thank you so much. And don't forget to go follow the Regenerative Conference over on DutchBlooms channel, and make sure to follow Casey and DutchBlooms on Instagram. And
I was going to
hit
ask
that like button.
How do you sell your weed? Because you can't sell it at a farmer's market
Yes.
anymore,
How
right?
do you sell your weed?
Yeah, so right now we distribute through Flocana. We helped launch the company in 2014. We were the first farm they launched with. And so that's been, it's been a great partnership over the years that, they keep us in business because they get product to market for us. I still long-term hope to be a farmer's market farmer again. I want it to come back around, but for the time being, we're in a wholesale marketplace. And so our product can be found in Flocana jars.
It doesn't say your name on it, your brand name on it. It
says Happy Day Farms. Yeah, definitely.
Oh, it does say, yeah, okay. They just distribute it.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh yeah.
Great success.
Oh yeah, dude, that's awesome. It's been a real challenge in Washington to move weed. That's why I asked in the legal market. It's been the number one challenge for me, straight up. So
getting product to market.
Awesome. That's the deal. I mean, you got to sell it.
Would you want to talk numbers or anything like that, or give anybody ideas of things that how they could maybe get into the market that you're doing, like with vegetables, or give somebody a little bit of idea to start something on their own, maybe?
You know, essentially it's like start with something that feels good and makes you happy and run with it. You know, it's like it's the old 10,000 hours. Like to be an artist, they say it takes 10,000 hours. And so, you know, find something that makes you feel so good that when it kicks the shit out of you, you still want to do it, because that's farming. You know, it's like it's not it's you got to love it. It's got to be a calling, because it'll whoop your ass, and you got to get back up and keep going. So you know, especially with food, like grow things you like to eat, and because what'll happen is you'll become so passionate about it that it just becomes this feedback loop, this positive feedback loop, where you're just like, this is what I want to do. And so you know, if it feels good, do it. And if it doesn't, then, you know, it may not be the right avenue.
That is awesome advice right there, I'm saying, man. So are you doing any KNF on your farm?
Yeah, we do. Amber, my wife, is the student. And so this year we did, you know, last year we were just doing straight plant manures, you know, just soaking it in a bucket for a month. And oh boy, it's pretty funky. And like you talk to the Elaine Ingen folks, and they're like, yo, that's you know, that's hardcore anaerobics. You can't use that. That's not good. And so, you know, we kind of went back and forth about it. And so this year we moved into more like the straight, you know, the traditional FPJ, you know, equal weights, sugar and plant material, and like getting that, you know, kind of that thick, rich syrup out of there, and then diluting it and using it to, you know, and then brewing it to make compost tea with. And so with, you know, our compost and stuff, and kind of adding those together. And so that's been we've really been enjoying that this year. I tell you, it's a lot less stinky. You know, the difference between the FPJ and the plant manure is, oh boy.
Have you made any IMOs?
Yeah, Amber did. You know, so we have an IMO 3 pile right now. And you know, we've done a few different times. We've done the rice and the IMO one. And again, this is one of those areas where I serve as more support, and you know, Amber's definitely the lead on it. So I'm hesitant to really like speak significantly as though I'm like, you know, I'm really doing it, but I'm definitely enjoying being able to support and be part of the process. And she's leading the way on that. She took a really great class from Wendy Kornberg, Cannabis. And when, because Wendy's really like diving into it, you know. And so it's been really cool to see, you know, like Wendy bring that information back to the community and make it available and teach classes and stuff. And so Amber went up and took a class this spring and learned a whole bunch of cool stuff.
Yeah, I took the class with Wendy. We sat next to each other, and we're KNF buddies. Shout out.
What's up? Hell yeah.
Yeah. So that's super cool, man. Hell yeah. Yeah, she just went to Korea, I think, on a big trip.
Yeah, dude. Totally taking it to the next level for sure.
Yeah, bringing rocks back, special magic Korean rocks. What?
Real deal.
I can't wait to talk to her at the conference, or actually I'll see her down at the symposium. That's right.
So what else, man? What's up? What else? What do you want to talk about? Anything you want to bring up?
I got a pasture project that I'm super pumped on. We just bought a rotary plow for the BCS, and so we're going to use it to make small trenches on contour, and be able to use the leftover biomass, you know, the stems and leaves from the cannabis this year. And I got about 150 comfrey starts that I transplanted out of the garden, and I've got a bunch of, you know, sunflower and calendula and alfalfa and a whole bunch of seed and stuff that I've saved. And so I'm going to start building these perennial terraces throughout the pasture, because the pasture is super steep. And so that way I can slow the flow of water. I can slow the downward movement of nutrients and biomass from the chickens when we move them. And so I'm starting to create this, you know, bioswale process that I'm fucking really excited about. So that's my big project this winter. And same thing, you know, it's like we're in the highlands, and so we're just always trying to slow the flow of water, slow it, sink it, spread it, and get the water to soak back in and recharge the groundwater, and you know, build soil, build organic matter in the soil, and just always trying to like figure out as much as possible like how we can jumpstart the ecosystem and give it the support it needs to be, green and vibrant. So that's really where I'm at this winter, is gearing into that project, and feeling pretty good about it.
Oh yeah. My property is narrow. It's not super sloped, but it does have a slope, and it's narrow and long. It's 10 acres. But I was able to put
That's mine too.
five swales all the way across the whole, 5 acres about the back, and then it all goes across this way. And then next year I'm going to cut it vertical this way, because I dug a pond, so I can bring all the excess down to the pond from the whole property, and store it all down there. So the pond's already full. I dug about half of it, but it's already full. So now I got to deal with the runoff. But yeah, so I felt really good, man, to do that. I mean, my property was really wet, and I still see how much it's going to help. But I know it's going to help a ton, because I get way too much water, and I can't use a lot of but then you start digging with an excavator, like when I've had projects, and I'm like, it's dry as a bone down there. What the fuck? It needs to, it's just all sitting on the surface and causing a muck, because, it needs to get down there.
Yep. And it's funny, like, because my problem's always the opposite, like too hot, too dry. And so it's just back to that whole microclimate thing, and it's interesting, like the different challenges, same reality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's fun, man. I'm just, because I've done 2 farms now, one in Minnesota, and then this year, other than cannabis, which is kind of indoors a little bit, the same. But anyways, it's a trip, the difference, like for instance, I set up this greenhouse, and I set up a propane burner heater. And this was all based upon the specs for Minnesota. So right in Minnesota, I had the same greenhouse, natural gas, janky ass heater, like one of the, not energy efficient. And they had a record cold snap. It was like 30 days, 45 days. It was like negative, like 15 straight. It was like, and I was growing tomatoes. Yeah, and then selling them for like $5 a pound to chefs, right? I was just, doing heirloom, super bougie tomatoes, and I was like, well, this is the mark, right? This is the most money I'm ever going to spend on this shit. Remember this bill, right? And it was $550 for the heat, and so like here I come to grow weed, back home in Washington, where I hadn't grown a greenhouse ever, just had only done it in Minnesota, right? There's snow, the whole thing, cold. And I'm like, all right, well, these are my numbers, right? And I punch, that's all my, how I build everything. And then I get to the whole thing. I buy a 93% efficiency heater, really nice one. I think, this is going to be nothing. I kick this in the pants. In the first 10 days, $1,000. I burned $1,000 in gas in the first 10 days in the fall, not cold. It was like, whoa, what the heck happened? What is going on? My mind did not understand. And there was a number of factors that I've unboxed now, but like one of them is propane is a lot different than natural gas. Natural gas is a lot drier. It's a lot cheaper.
Yeah, totally. I said that, I hadn't even made that connection before, but that makes sense.
Right. And in the greenhouse, you're trying to dehumidify with propane that's already cold, wet. So it's you have to bring it hotter. It's like, so you have to use more energy. Oh boy. and in Minnesota, I had done underground, they call it, I think, a GAT system, ground air transfer, where you dig trenches and you bury pipes underground, and you circulate the hot air during the day instead of evacuating it out. Totally. And Minnesota has a lot of sun, so it'd be negative 20 up, and it'd be 90 degrees in the greenhouse, no heat, because the sun was so bright. Right? And here where I live now, we don't get the sun. It was so many learning factors that, right? That's what I'm trying to say.
So man, and it's so funny too, like, lessons that work in one space can be totally different, like one ridge over, you know what I'm saying? And so it's that whole, and it's funny because like I feel like the theme of this conversation just always keeps circling back to context, and like, it's like that's the number one thing about farming is like understand your context, because if you have that, you can do anything you want with it, but if you don't, it's gonna fuck with you again and again.
Totally, dude. Hell yeah, man.
Fucking it. Great success.
So
Yeah, it's
I
been a
was going to
pleasure.
ask you, any favorite cover crops that you found or that you really like, or maybe in what you're planning on doing and what you're going into the fall with?
Yeah, we spent actually 6 hours today sowing cover crop. And so there's a seed company down here called LaBallisters that makes a lot of different blends. And they do just a standard, what they call the OSB, the organic soil builder. And so it's peas, vetch, oats. And that's been really great for us. And then we add in mustard for it to it because the mustard flowers really early and the bees love it. And then for pasture, I really like different clovers. Last year we did a lot of red clover, which is really nice. And then a little bit of alfalfa. And like I said, I'm always playing around with borage and calendula. And this year we started using Phacelia, which is its common name is bee's friend. And it's fucking phenomenal. It makes these incredible, like super bright purple flowers, and the bees just go fucking nuts. So that's definitely my new favorite. It's real fast growing. It makes a nice ground cover, and then it'll reseed itself. And then the summer we do a lot of buckwheat too. Buckwheat's a really awesome summer cover crop.
And you said oats also?
Yeah, in the organic soil builder is oats, because you want that grass. Because the grass will grow fast and make a nice root mat, sop up any leftover nitrogen. The legumes will you inoculate the seed with the nitrogen fixing bacteria, and so the legumes will fix nitrogen. The grass will make a really nice root mat that'll break down into more soil porosity and more organic matter in your soil. And it's interesting too, like if you look at, you sow the mix, and you can see, like if you see that it's your resulting cover crop is more grass dominant, then you had more nitrogen. And if it's more legume dominant, then that you had less nitrogen because the legumes have outcompeted.
Awesome.
I thought the legumes was supposed to help the nitrogen.
Yeah, they'll fix nitrogen. And so like in soil that has very poor nitrogen, the legumes will really thrive. And so because they'll grow fast, and they'll add nitrogen to the soil. And so that soil that's really nitrogen rich, the grass will grow faster, and so it'll outcompete the legumes.
Oh, that's what you said. Okay, I misunderstood you. Okay, so you're gonna find out real quick if you have rich nitrogen rich soil if the grass grows really. Okay, I didn't hear that. Sorry about that.
And it's funny because it was something I had never thought of, and my friend came through, and he's like looking at the cover crop, and he's like, whoa, you see the variation in nitrogen between those beds? And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And he was like, well, look, that one's totally grass dominant, and that one's totally legume dominant. And it was like, whoa.
Wow, never even thought of that. Cool.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that either. I've never grown mixed cover crops at scale. Like I've done when I was doing CSA at an acre, but I would do like buckwheat and then till it in. I do just like one straight thing, because I was just like trying to build.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, because it's like when you're buying seed in bulk, it makes a lot more sense to do single varietal. And so it's interesting, like because we're sowing much smaller amounts, like I'm just buying 50-pound sacks of seeds, and so I'm paying, in terms of like what I'm paying per pound for seed, it's a little ridiculous, but the blend is nice because then I get that, I have that variety that's coming through.
I dump white Dutch clover everywhere that I disturb soil, just everywhere. Like this poor little farm store, like I buy them out every year, like 2 or 3 times a year, because I've just been tearing the place up and rebuilding, and dumping that shit everywhere. But then I've been to like Elaine. I'm like, she's my guru, and I'm and KNF too, so it fucks with people. But she gave the advice of these perennials, these low-growing perennials, and I really latched onto it. And I've been doing it in my greenhouse it's expensive to get going because they're hard, you know, so it's like creeping time, like the low growing one, and like alyssum, like they're a little flowering, you know, that shit, right?
Yep.
It smells good, and like I'm really interested to see how it will affect the cannabis, you know, because the time varieties, you know, it's obviously are very potent, you know.
Now, something about alyssum can actually tell you what your alkaline or acidity can be in your soil, because it will grow. It's only white. It keeps going white if it's an alkaline soil, if I remember right, or one or the other. Don't quote me, but check that out. Because if you plant purple, ours keeps going white out front, and we have real high alkaline soil out here. And
interesting.
So that's what I have found out.
Good looking out.
Yeah, I'll check that out. Mine's all white everywhere, but I planted the white. Listen,
it smells so good. We started growing it this year. Yeah,
it feels good. It feels good to just. All I was able to do, because I've just been building farm, was just I had literally a whole refrigerator full of seed from when I was doing CSA that I've been carrying with me for years, and I was like, "That's it." I just like just literally just. Well,
you guys know the other plant that does that is hydrangeas, isn't it?
Yeah.
The ones with the big poofy flowers.
The pH, you can change the hydrangeas by the
pH of the soil. So that would be another one that could tell the soil pH too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. Well, thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah.
Big thanks, man. Good to get to know you on the internet.
Yeah, very, very nice. Thank you for coming out tonight. And is there like any final things that you want, or if you want to shout out your channel, tell everybody how to find you, go ahead.
We're on IG at Happy Day Farms, and much love and great success.
I love the shirt.
Yep, that's us. Have a good one, man. Thank you.
Have a good night.
Dutch, you muted yourself. Okay, thanks, Casey. We'll see you out, and Dutch is going to probably tell us a little bit about the regenerative conference, huh?
Yeah, I don't want to just repeat, but you can get all the information at regenerativeorganiccannabis.com. We're going to Vancouver and Humboldt, and then we'll be going to Michigan, and then to Portland, just right before 420. So
Portland, Maine.
Portland, Maine, not Portland, Oregon. Yeah.
I was like, wait, Portland.
They're similar towns in some ways. Well, in the way that they both have excellent food, I guess, in that way, and good weed. So I'm actually really like Portland, Maine. I could spend a lot of time there. It's a blast. But yeah, so we're super excited to get that going. We're starting in January in Vancouver, so kind of after the holiday break, and then it's conference time. And yeah, one thing I'm excited to talk about though is today I opened up the seed bank online with Mandalorian Genetics. So
yes, I saw that on Instagram. Go ahead and tell everybody about it, Dutch.
Yeah, it's regenerativeseeds.com or regenerativeseedco.com. So it's a seed bank that a percentage, 15% of the sale of the seeds will go back to seed preservation projects. And so I've kind of got a rough idea on how to organize it. We're going to accept a membership here pretty soon once I figure out how to organize that best. And the idea is that all the members, will pay a fee, and then each quarter they'll be gifted seeds to grow out. And we will also select projects that we will fund with, use these funds to preserve seed and then distribute basically out to the membership. And the idea.
Okay. It's not like a normal seed bank.
Well, yeah, normal seed banks, take in seeds and then they
Right.
mark them up and they sell them, right?
Right.
It's,
Okay.
it's a like a retail store,
Right.
simple business.
So you're not
And
doing that.
So yes, we're doing that, but 15% of the sale of that seed will go back to preservation projects. Meaning,
But you were saying that that they'll have you're having a member thing. That's where I got lost.
yeah,
That's where I got lost.
So we'll also have a membership. So you could join.
Oh, okay. So
and
there's
become a member.
there's seed sales and membership.
They both
Okay.
go to they both fund for the preservation project.
Okay. Sorry,
That's what
I
I'm
got
trying to
lost
say.
on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then so if you became a member,
Okay.
once we started, you know, it's going to take us a year for it to have a season to grow, you know, do the big grow outs. Then every quarter we'll send out seed to the members, and that's basically, you know, keeping the genetics in the hands of as many people as possible is the concept.
Wow, very nice. That sounds cool.
Yeah, so that's, you know, I got the webpage going. I've been talking to breeders, and today we launched the actual sale with Mandalorian Genetics. He grows autoflowers.
And
Dan.
so do you want to talk a little bit about the autoflowers that he grows? Do you?
Yeah, I know a little bit about him. I don't know a ton.
Okay.
He's here in Washington. He's a super cool dude. He's super knowledgeable. We got to have him on the show, maybe even next week. He's been on a lot of shows, and I've just been listening because I'm learning to work with autos, and he's been doing it for 10 years, and I'd really like to hear more about his genetics. I know that the gem he has, it's a high CBG varietal. I think it comes in like 2 or 3% CBG, which is pretty, like, you know, that's a pretty big deal that, you know, for an auto flower that comes in that high percentage, and they're quality flowers. You could look at the website. He's got a ton of documentation. It's very impressive. It's not just like this is some F1 cross that he made and go search for what you want. It's a product that he's made and worked on for years, and he's got the test up there, and he's got, you know, everything. So he's a cool dude, and I'm super stoked to have him on board. And so he's got 3 varietals. He's got the Anvil, which is an F5, and then he's got the Gem, which is the high CBG, and then Alf, which I think the Alf is parent to both the Gem and the Anvil, or yeah, something like that.
So are the tests on all of those up on Instagram?
They're on the website.
On the website. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought I saw him post one on Instagram.
I put a couple on Instagram. Yeah,
okay, that's where I saw it.
But
okay.
It's all clear in the website. You can
all on the website. That's really cool because there's not a lot of places that have all the tests out for all of their.
Not a lot of breeders do that. This guy's on it.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and he's got a ton of info, Lil. You know, this many days. It's, you know, the whole thing. This many days.
Yeah, that's way cool. Way cool. Awesome.
Excuse me.
Okay. Well.
So yeah, that was exciting.
Wow.
And,
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
What's up with you?
I just transplanted today and cleaned up my tent, and just took care of all the babies today. I'm dealing with baby chickens that should have hatched earlier in the year, and they're still hatching, and my husband's like, get them out of my shop because I put them in the shop, and because I feel bad for the little babies. They shouldn't have to be out in this freezing cold weather. We've had freezing every night.
Mama?
Well, I just threw Mama back in the coop.
If you just leave Mama with the babies, then it's all good.
No, because I have too many hens in the hen house. You don't understand. There's too many hens in the hen house. We need to get rid of some. So yes, got to work on that. Anybody lives near me and wants some chickens, free. They're organic. I don't care what you do with them.
You want to hear a funny story?
No, go for it.
The other day, well, it was maybe a week or so ago, my wife called me, and she's like, she was leaving, and she's going down the drive, and she's like, "There's a pig in the front property." I'm like, "All right." I'm like, "Yes, I've been wanting a pig." So I go out there to check out this pig, and I'm like, "Hey, pig," and it comes. And
Oh no, it comes to you.
yeah, and it's like a pet pig, and it's I look at it, and I kind of know pigs. It's a kuni, like, which is a fancy, kind of gourmet pig that people also keep as pets.
Oh,
And,
okay. I don't know. I don't know anything about pigs.
I know just a little bit.
Oh.
Anyways, it's the kind you'd want to use to like make nice prosciutto and shit, right?
Oh, makes a nice bacon.
Yeah. So I call this pig, and it follows me down the road and I put it in the chicken coop, and it spends the night in there. And my wife, like, there's a little app, My Neighbor or something, she posts on there, nothing. And we're trying to find the owner, but we don't know where this pig came from, right? And we don't know anyone around us that has pigs or whatever. And so I post on Facebook finally after a couple days, on the Whatcom County farmers thing. Anyways, I'm like, "Hey, I got this pig. I live here between," and this is the funny thing, I didn't even think about it. I live between Kickerville and Ham.
Ham.
Right, I didn't think about it, and I was like, so I'm probably gonna, if I can't find the owner in the next, few days, I'm probably just gonna make some bacon.
It's gonna be ham.
I said that. I said I was gonna make some bacon, and that's not the thing you should say on Facebook.
Oh shit.
Yeah, people got so mad at me and told me that I needed to call the Humane Society, and I had no idea.
You were just playing.
No, I was gonna make some bacon.
Oh wow. Okay, I wouldn't have.
And
I would have waited quite a while, but okay.
Yeah, I thought it was like a gift from heavens. I was like, we got wheat for the winter. Hell yeah.
Dude, we have had so many animals get out and in our yard. You wouldn't even know. We haven't had a pig. I'm surprised. We had pet ducks come wander in our backyard, and I have a dog that's a hunting dog, like your dog.
Yeah.
And I went out there and I shook a little thing of grain, and all the ducks come running over to me. So I knew there was someone's pet, right? So I chased them out of our yard. Hopefully they found its home. And then I found another pet duck and took it around the neighborhood trying to find whose owner it was. Yeah.
I end up finding the person on Facebook whose
you found
pig it is, but the person can't take care of their pet pig. They can't afford it anymore.
Oh.
And I'm like, serious, like, I have a buddy who's a butcher, like, let's do this shit. Like, it's all good. And she's like, no, it's a my daughter's pet pig. I've already called the Humane Society. They're coming. Can you wait an hour? They're on their way. And I'm like, what? Like, seriously? And so the Humane Society came. I'm like trying to not just say straight up, like, what happens to animals at the Humane Society, right? And anyways, the Humane Society came, and it was like Dumb and Dumber, dude, straight up. Like, these guys they had no idea how to catch a pig.
So did you just pay him and keep it there?
No, I didn't know. I did not.
So you're going to go down and adopt it?
No, because now no.
Because you can adopt it and do whatever the hell you want with it.
My son was there. My son was there watching. He'd become fond of the pig. We all, and these guys lasso the pig, and like, oh my gosh,
we're gonna have all this hatred on here. That all these vegan people are gonna have all these hatred after we get off this video. I can see it now.
It's true, but if you're vegan, you need to be conservative.
Sorry,
the world doesn't work that way. I'm not about like animals dominating and everything. I think eat mostly vegetable diet, but
everything in balance, right? Like that's just what we need.
Nutrients don't work that way. It doesn't. To cycle nutrients, you need animals in the system, straight up. And the animals need to be eating a wide variety in their diet and what they're naturally meant to eat. And that's part of the issue is our cows are eating corn, creating a lot of fucking farts. And all of the above. Our minerals are, because the animals can create literally more minerals out of it, you know, when they eat the material. I'm not saying this well. I'm a little stoned.
I know what you mean. We went over it last one. But anyhow, all right, guys. Well, I think we'll call it a night. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks everybody for hanging out there in chat. I appreciate y'all coming by. Purple Richard, DK, thanks for hanging out. Lost Art, Mason 662. Who else we got out there? Bingo Lombardi, Richard, Pilgrim, Mason. If I miss you, Red States. If I miss you, Cobra, everybody out there, sorry. Have a good night. Thanks for stopping by taraleelive, and we will see you tomorrow night at 5 o'clock, going live at 5. I got a panel tomorrow. And then next Tuesday, back here with DutchBlooms. And do we have it planned yet? Okay, so we'll let you know. We'll let you know next week. You'll find out next week, next Tuesday. See you next Tuesday with Dutch. All right, bye, guys. See ya.